Arranged marriages aren't as bad as they were portrayed to be. Teresa Corman had this in mind in the days prior to her walking down the aisle to wed Ambrose Small. She would be wrong. It would be a little bit more respectful if he just rubbed his infidelity to Teresa's face, but he instead paraded his mistresses in the streets, at work, and everywhere while her rich, lonely wife is left alone. She's starting to think that he only married her for her fortune, and she's getting the shorter end of the stick in this marriage. Shortly after 1919, she would not have to dream longer of the day her disloyal husband goes away for good, because Ambrose Small would disappear from the surface of the earth. Hey! My name is Detective Maple. If you like true crime stories and unsolved mysteries, hit that subscribe button because I'm here to bring tons your way. So drape your blanket over your head and let's get spookin'. On the 11th of January 1863, Ambrose Small was born in Bradford, Canada West. His parents, Daniel and Ellen, raised him in a humble household. Then, in 1880, his dad had a managerial position in the Grand Hotel, so they had to move to Toronto. For the young, ambitious 13-year-old Ambrose Small, this move to a more urbanized area has opened doors of opportunity for him. It was all he needed to start. However, either his parents had no choice, or they wanted to teach Ambrose the value of money. He had to drop out of school and work to make money like every other unprivileged teen in this time of history. Small worked as a dishwasher at Toronto's Warden Hotel. While walking to work the first few days of his job, he passes by the dazzling, handsome Grand Opera Theatre. He whispered to himself, "One day, I would own the Grand Opera Theatre." Taking the lessons he learned earlier on, he began his conquest by being an usher and a bartender. He also got himself into illegal horse race gambling on the side, and it sparked his interest in taking risks and being cocky enough to gamble his money every day. Despite this, we gotta give it to Small as he was able to work his way up. Small's story was a typical from rags to riches. Likely because of his ethics and perseverance, he earned a good reputation in the hospitality industry. One thing Small could not control in his career, though, was his co-workers, particularly Oliver B. Shepherd. In fact, they both hated each other so much that Small had to quit and work elsewhere, the Toronto Opera House. Likely the most hurtful moment of his life was when his mother passed away. His dad would proceed to marry a Corman, daughter of a wealthy brewery owner named Ignatius Corman. This marriage is basically men wanting to join their fortunes together and using their daughters and wives as currency. Ambrose knew well about how this works, and being the opportunist that he is, he wanted a piece, if not all, of that brewery fortune. He would marry who would technically be his step-aunt, the sister of her stepmother, Teresa Corman. They're technically not blood related, so this was not too scandalous in the 1800s. Besides, Small couldn't care less what other people think because their fortunes combined made them very rich. After businesses here and there, he finally got rich enough to purchase the Grand Theatre. He also held grudges and fired Shepherd. Ambrose was in the lead in the theatrical business in Ontario. After his business partner Clark J. Whitney passed away in 1902, he proceeded to buy theaters in Hamilton, Peterborough, St. Thomas, and Kingston, eventually creating his empire of 34 theaters. Since he almost monopolized the industry, everyone trying to make a name in the entertainment, producers, stars, and more had to eat off of his hands. No one liked that this was how things were. Ambrose Small was not a liked person in the town or anywhere else. He mostly slept through the business ethics seminars, so he would constantly cheat on his associates, plant what he calls jokers, and fix the outcome of horse races. Journalist Hector Charlesworth mentioned in his book, Candid Chronicles, that he heard the words, "Somebody will get Amby someday." If he had friends at this time of his life, they were likely hanging out with him for the money. We could only speculate how bad he really was, and you might start to feel sympathy for the man, but we're only getting started. Now Small is living comfortably, he has settled down and his business is booming, and a significant part of it thanks to his wife. You would think he would try to be slightly better than an average husband in the 1900s. Perhaps pick fresh flowers for Teresa Corman every morning or cook her breakfast. Of course not. In his mind, he was too good, too much of a bad boy to be a regular committed husband. He needed at least 2 women in his life aside from his wife. Maybe 3 or 4 or 5. Actually, forget the numbers. He'll change mistresses as often as a tick jumps from one place to another. His favorite population? Chorus girls from his theaters. Ambrose has mastered the technique. Number 1, woo the girl with chocolates. Number 2, choose one of your 3 dumb pickup lines, say it with confidence, and even intimidate them if need be to sweep them off their feet. No is never the answer. And number 3, bring them into the back room and do as you will. The creepy old man has an extreme libido and it is known to everyone. He even builds a room with a gigantic bed and pictures of naked women hung on the walls. As good of a capitalist as he is, Small also had an appetite for the finer things in life. He spent his money as fast, if not faster, than he earned thousands of dollars. With all these stressors in the entertainment industry, and probably his wife constantly demanding some respect and decency, Small's escape became retail therapy and out-of-the-country trips. It is clear that Small and Corman's marriage is not going well. The two never had any children, they sleep in different bedrooms, and you almost would never see the two hanging out. Financially, though, they were doing well on the surface. They could retire comfortably, even in luxury. In 1919, Small sold his chains of theaters to Trans-Canada Theatres Limited and got paid $1 million initially. The other $700,000 would be paid in installments the following years. Despite his open disgust for children, the church, and charitable events, after their lunch at Kind Edward Hotel, Ambrose Small miraculously let his wife leave a donation to St. Vincent de Paul Orphanage. They parted ways and Small vowed to be at home by supper. After he bought fur coats, jewelry, and a Cadillac for Teresa, Small went to meet his attorney, E.W.M. Flock, in the theater office to settle some matters. In a rush to catch the train to London, Flock leaves the office at 5:30. No one would ever see Ambrose Small again. Whether no one cared enough, not even his wife, or everyone thought it was good riddance, Ambrose Small's disappearance didn't reach the police until 2 weeks after. No checks of his had been cashed, nor evidence of him leaving the city were found by the police. According to Teresa, she was pretty sure that Small was wandering around with a couple of young women, as he always used to do. But it's probably the gifts he bought her before he disappeared, or the last drop of concern she had for her husband. She then offered a $500 reward, which would increase to $50,000 for information about his whereabouts. Psychics offer their services, and reporters even tried to involve the author of Sherlock Holmes, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, hoping his detective skills could help bring back the wealthy man home or help bring justice if a crime took place. Small's personal underpaid secretary, James Doty, was hot in the police's eyes as he disappeared as soon as Small vanished, carrying a $100,000 bond from Small's deposit box. He would be charged with theft, but he would never be convicted of murder. The reward and the sensation prompted people to create their own theories. Some reporters say that they have seen Small in Boston and Minneapolis. There were also alleged sightings of him in Mexico. He was allegedly seen in France with a woman on his arm holding a glass of champagne in the other hand. These sightings are unlikely considering that his funds were never used at all since he disappeared. E.W.M. Flock, according to speculations, had agreed to help Small fake his death but ended up actually killing him and disposing of his body. Aside from the fact that he was the last one to see Ambrose, there was not enough evidence to support this theory. Another popular theory, fueled by Ambrose's sisters Gertrude and Florence, was that Teresa Corman had hired someone to kill and dispose of his husband. She was probably sick of the infidelity, and her husband's anti-church ideas counteracted her religious devotion. Maybe she wanted to retire alone with all the money she helped her husband get in the first place. The Small sisters went as far as hiring a private detective and getting the police to dig up the basement of the Grand Opera House, but they found nothing against the wife, and his disappearance would remain a mystery up to this day. Only a few years after he vanished, Ambrose Small was declared dead by the Ontario Supreme Court. Most of his estate was left to his wife, Teresa. Teresa would die 12 years later, and their remaining large fortune would go to Catholic charities. Due to the lack of developments in the case, the disappearance of Ambrose Small would be closed in 1960. Ambrose Small may not have been the husband of the year, the boss of the year, or a neighbor you would want to wish a nice day for, but if he was indeed a murder victim, the killer then deserved to be put into justice. Maybe only then would his ghost allegedly roaming the Grand Theatre in Ontario would stop pestering pretty women in the establishment. Do you think Ambrose Small had a midlife crisis, decided to leave everything and search for a true purpose? Or did his wealth or lifestyle subject him to greedy, darker schemes? Let us know what you think in the comments down below. In the next story, Christina Kettlewell was head over heels for Jack Kettlewell. No wonder she agreed to marry him right away. But only 9 days after their wedding, she would be found dead near her husband's best friend's burning cottage. Until then, Puppet out!